Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Evans, and I'm here for NAlitChat. I'm very excited to introduce you guys to Deborah Halverson, who's going to be our guest tomorrow night. And she is here to talk about all the things new adult. She's got a new book on the market that I think you guys are really going to like, and I can't wait to read. Hi, Deborah. Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
So you are an editor, a fiction writer, and a nonfiction writer. Can you tell us about all these parts? Because I know that they're all interesting. To me, at least. And I know that means they're probably interesting to our community as well.
Well, it started out with the editing part. I edited children's books for Harcourt Children's Books for a decade. And that was everything from picture books to fiction for teens, you know, the whole gamut. And I eventually had to stop working for Harcourt when I had triplet boys. And then showing up in an office 5 days a week became impossible. But that was about the time I started writing myself. And I wrote one middle grade book called Big Mouth, and I wrote a teen novel called Honk If You Hate Me. And so about the time I went freelance, I was now writing as well as teaching and helping writers find out how to sculpt their fiction to really resonate with a particular readership and really sound like the mindset of a character of a certain age, whether they were aiming at the 5-year-olds or the 10-year-olds or the 18-year-olds. And that was something I loved to do, and I realized that I understood how to do that in a technical sense, and I could articulate it. And so that's when I went into the nonfiction part, and I wrote Writing Young Adult Fiction for Dummies.
And those books have the silliest names, but they're so helpful. They're so, everyone that I've picked up has been truly helpful. There's something about, you know, the setup that I think is effective, and I love that it works for writing as well.
Well, when I was having a discussion with the editor about it, she said, you know, it's not for dummies. It's for very smart people who want to know what they want to know. Right. They want to be able to dip in, and the way we've organized it, they can dip in and find out what it is they need at that moment. And I had a Newbery medal winner send me an email one day and say, you know what, I was stuck on a character. I needed something to jog it loose. And she said, I saw your book on the shelf, and I picked it up. I said, I wonder what Deborah has to say about this. And she was able to go right to that page, and she said, oh, yeah. You know, it just made her remember. Well, it made her remember. And so, pardon me?
No, I can see that about those books. They're great for bits of information exactly how you need them. There's no fluff in the best way.
Yeah, and so I really enjoyed that experience. And when new adult fiction came on the scene, it felt very familiar to me, because as an editor with Harcourt, we would get these manuscripts that were about 18 and 19-year-olds, kids just out of high school, and even 20-year-olds, and we loved them, and we would bring them to the editorial meeting, and our sales guys would go, I hear that you love them, but I don't know what to do with it. Yeah. There's not a shelf for this. And a lot of writers, new adult fictions, know that feeling. They've heard that before. Absolutely. And we're told to lower the age of the character or age them up or something so we can put it in the stores. And so we would have to turn those away. And so when self-publishing and social media and all that came to a head and made the opportunity for writers to pull these stories out of their drawers or to write them the first time themselves, because this is what they're interested in, it felt familiar to me in that it was something I really wanted to see already. So I really got into reading it. And as I read it and I saw what people were doing, and I was pulling apart the stories, wondering about this audience and this character sensibility, what made young new adults think in this way, I realized that I could share some of the mechanics of it that I saw. And so I decided to write my second nonfiction book, which is Writing New Adult Fiction. So that's my newest book, and that's with Writer's Digest Books.
Yeah, and we're so excited about that. I mean, we've been talking about you in this book for 9 months because, you know, as much as when you're in a community or when you're writing something, you're sort of in that whirlpool, you don't realize when I'll talk to other people and I'll be like, oh, yeah, I do this thing called NAlitChat, and I may as well be speaking Chinese. And even when I stop to say, well, that means new adult lit chat, and new adult is kind of like the big brother version or the older version of young adult, and then I start to break down the mechanics and try to give them examples of books that were in the marketplace before this became a category and that kind of thing. They start to get it. But it's books like yours that, you know, really work to educate lots of people, even those that aren't necessarily going to pick up one of the new adult books and read them, but they still need to be aware that it exists because maybe there's one that's not out yet that they will want to read.
Yes. Yes. A common book that I point people to when what you just said, where you talk about books that came out featuring characters of this age range before there was a category for it, before you had a name to hang on it. A great example of that would be Marcus Zuzak's I Am the Messenger, about a 19-year-old boy who's a cabbie. He's out of school. And because we know him as the author of The Book Thief,
right,
and he was big in young adult fiction and children's books, he was known for publishing that category. They didn't have a new adult fiction category. They published him in children's books. And so I'm able to point to that book and the examples in that and show why at one time that's where it would have landed. But nowadays, it might be given a different designation. Now, he has a past in that category, so they may still go it that way. But the rest of us don't. You know, we're starting with these stories fresh.
Well,
and so we know how to label it so that people know what it is.
Right. And that's what's so beautiful about the online retailers is that there can be 27 categories and 27 different paths to a book. You're not limited the way that you are when there's physical limitations of a bookshelf. And you know, you hate to hear that the sales guys were saying that, but you also understand it. It's realistic. And, you know, thank goodness for readers. I really believe that New Adult came from a passion of writers and readers coming together and making the market, and that's why it's so exciting to me personally. So I'm glad that you responded to that in the business too.
Yeah, the communion with the writers and readers defines this category more than anything, and that happened at a time when ebooks came to a head, when social media came to a head, and we could talk back and forth, and you didn't need the physical bookstores and the physical buyers. And so many things came together at one moment, and ultimately the interest of the writers who wanted to tell these stories that, you know, that were important to them, and there were readers waiting out there to read them, you know, and it resonated between both of them. So I love that. That to me makes it feel very energetic community, and I really thrive on that myself, and the energy of a writing community.
Well, we are so excited to welcome you to NAlitChat, and you're going to find a lot of kindred spirits here, and we're really excited to talk to you more about this tomorrow night. I think it's fascinating the way that your background, you know, has brought you to your interest here, because a lot of us are on the indie scene or just wouldn't take no for an answer. Like, a lot of people came to this for a lot of different reasons, and I know you're going to bring some great things to the discussion. It's always interesting to me to know why this brings such passion in people.
Yeah, I will love talking about it. It's very important to me to talk not just in also an abstract way, but to talk to get kind of tangible and say, so what does it mean to write the new adult sensibility?
Right.
You know, and people will come to me with those questions, and that's why I started a writer's advice website, deareditor.com. It's like Dear Abby for writers, because they would say, well, it's all good and dandy to say sound like a new adult, but how do I do that in actual words that I put on the page?
Right.
So I can answer that one question and go, here you go. And this just is my chance to answer it in a bigger way.
Well, that's perfect. We're going to have lots of questions for you tomorrow night. We'll make sure to get some questions in advance. We'll probably be talking to all three parts of your personality. I love that about you.
It sounds good to me.
Okay, I will see you tomorrow night. Deborah, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Bye-bye.